One of the hottest topics in our support queue is how to set up ACH payments. Anne-Marie Brookman is here to show you how it's done. So we'll go ahead and get started. Anne-Marie, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Suzanne. Suzanne said this is the ACH payments, and we'll be showing you in Business Central today. So welcome. Well, moving on. I am Anne-Marie Brookman, as Suzanne said, and I'm one of the dedicated customer service reps here that we service the Sapphire and Diamond plans. We meet with our clients regularly, discuss open cases, process technical needs, pass sometimes the cases on, but we help manage and process the cases. Okay, so we're going to start talking about ACH. One of the first things you want to do is you want to start talking to your bank. As soon as you start thinking about doing ACH and you're going to decide to switch over to that, that would be the time to start talking to your bank. So reach out to your bank, find out what format they accept for ACH files and their entry codes. You're going to discuss fees. Some banks have fees associated with using ACH, so that would be a good thing for you to know up front. And then as well, get file layout, understand the requirements for the file that you're going to transmit. The Business Central system will process a file and export it out, as I will show you later. And then you take that file. Some people have it swept through their server with an FTP script. They can pick it up and send it to the bank. Some people email it to the bank. But it's a good time to start talking to your banker and find out what their requirements are. So in BC, it supports the CTX format, that's Corporate Trade Exchange, and that's the format that it handles. So anything else, we may have to make some sort of modifications or changes you would have to discuss in more detail, but preferably they have that. So, and again, some banks' formats will require modifications. Business Central has 3 standard formats that it has: US, Mexico, and Canada. And it fits a flat format of certain fields. And you will find maybe when you start talking to your bank that they have requirements of a different type of title for the file, additional fields that need to be required, some that they don't. So you will need to be able to start working on the formats, and sometimes the fields are available that you can select. Other times it may require a modification or customization. So that's why I do recommend start talking to them early before you decide you're going to go ACH in a week or something. That way you're prepared. So first thing you're going to want to do, and I'm going to show you on these slides, but then I will go ahead and get in the system and show you in the system. So we're just going to do an overview here and then show you in the system. So on your company information, you cannot process an ACH file without having a federal ID set up in the company card. This may seem kind of basic, but you'd be surprised sometimes it's not actually entered in there and you would receive an error. So you will need to set that up if you haven't already. Additional fields on the bank card that are required is the bank name, the bank account, and your branch number. That's all found on the General tab. When you go on to your Posting tab, last remittance advice number, you will need to put that in, even if this is your first one. So you could start it up, say, ACH 0001, and the number part will count up as you go for you, but you do have to have something for it to start with. And then on the Transfer tab of the bank, you're going to enter your payment format, which translates to the data exchange. And then you're going to have your ePay export file name. That's the file name that's of the file that's downloaded and exported. As long as creation numbers, again, that similar to the remittance, that will count up for you. And then the transit number, and then the country format that you're going to use. All right, so this is just showing you these fields. So here you have your bank account card, and it's showing that the name, the bank branch, bank account are populated. And I have put in a last remittance advice number, so it has something to start with. And then down in the transfer part of the bank account card, this is where you have the meat of it, of what type of format you're going to have, what the file name is, and then the transit number, of course, of your bank, and then the last file creation number. Again, more numbers that'll count up for you. And you can see I've got US here. Again, Business Central will accommodate Mexico and Canada as well. Okay. Also, in order to use ACH, you're going to have to set it up on your vendor cards. The vendors that you are going to process ACH payments to, you would have to set up their banking information so that not only does the bank take the money out of yours, it is able to put the money into the vendor's account. The code, that's a code that you can set up. It doesn't have a specific format. A lot of times people use 100, 200. Some vendors have multiple bank accounts that they may be using. You enter the name, their bank account, branch number, bank account, transit. And then key is there's a slide rule at the bottom of the vendor card that will tell you to use electronic payments. Without that, you will receive errors. And then on the vendor card, you're going to want to select that the payment method code is ACH. I put optional because sometimes you're going to use and pay them multiple ways. So you don't necessarily have to put that in. You can put it in on the payment journal. All right, so this is showing, get the mouse out of the way. It's showing that we've set it up with an ACH and then the bank account number. So if we drill down, we would then go to the bank account setup card, which is here. So we're showing that we've chose a code of 100. We're putting in our bank name, which is required, the bank branch number, the bank account number, and the transit number. And this is the field that I was telling you about that is critical. You do have to say used for electronic payment or you will never get an ACH to process. And sometimes the warning message may be a little bit vague. So if you get a message in the beginning, always check your setups. Okay, here's additional information on the bank or the vendor card. What you can do is under the document layouts, you can see here, this one I've set up, there is an option to say vendor remittance. This way, when you're in your ACH and you're exporting your remittance files, you can actually have it go via email. Do it electronically, choose your report ID. This is the standard report. Sometimes you may use other reports, or you can have custom layout and you have your vendor's email put in here. And this will then enable the export of the remittance to go to the vendor. It's not required. There is a download and you can email or do differently. Okay. The next part of the setup is in your general journal batches. You're going to want to create a batch for ACH, and then you're going to set it to be a bank account, and then your balance account is the bank account and a number series. You can have multiple ACH batches or you can have one. It depends on your needs. But if you have multiple bank accounts, you can have multiple batches set up. You can have different numbering if you want to be able to do reporting based on different numbers, etc. And then down here, this is just a continuation of that line showing the journal batch. You do want to make sure that you have allow payment export, or again, you'll be getting errors and nothing will export. Okay. So when you go to create your payment journal, this is done same as you would other payment journals that you would create if you were going to do checks. It's processed a lot the same. You choose your batch name. So in this case, since we set up ACH, we're going to choose ACH. And then you're going to go to prepare and suggest vendor payments. This will suggest based on the criteria in your filter. And in our filter, we're going to go ahead here and we're going to say payment method code. Now remember, we put that on the vendor card that their payment method was going to be ACH. So this will then narrow down and filter, so it's only pulling in those you expect to pay with ACH and that have a bank account set up. You can have your starting number, your posting date. This again, these are all the same criteria. It's the same screen that comes up when you're doing a check run or other payments. You can summarize by vendor. That is pretty common to go ahead and summarize and just have one electronic payment, or you can have it show the detail. Moving on, once you've done that, you can see your payment journal is now going to be populated. You can see your document numbers are now incrementing based on whether you have summarize or not. In this example, I had summarize, so it's going to have the same document number. So it's going to list the vendor bank accounts from their bank card that we're pointing to. We're going to have our payment method code here of ACH, and our bank payment type has to be electronic payment. So But the rest of the journal looks similar to what you would have if you were doing a check run. Okay, so the next step you may have seen when you've been in your payment journals, under bank, you have an export option here. So you click bank and you click export. What this does is it generates the remittance advices. So at this point, you want to have already reviewed your payment journal, added or deleted any items that you wanted to the suggestions, similar as you would in other processing. You can add, delete, modify, because once you get to this point and you do the bank export to get your remittance advice, it's pretty difficult to go backwards. So at that point, you're committed, you're going to be creating a file to transmit to the bank. Okay. So on the export, it's going to ask you what you're exporting. We're going to do our payment journal. It's going to be the ACH one that I had. And right now I'm just doing in PDF. So, and that's going to create my remittance. What that does is then it downloads a file for you. So in your top right, often that's where I've seen it located for most people. Yours may be slightly different, but you'll see that if you click on this, you have downloads, or if you watch as it's doing it, it's going to have a little pop-up probably showing you that you have a download. And then you can open the file. It'll take you out to your folder where you have your downloads, and you can see your remittance advices there, and then open them and you can review them. So this is a copy of one that was done. Again, you can use custom reports or layouts for it, or you can use the standard. Oh. Oops. Went too far. Sorry about that. Heavy finger. So moving forward, sorry about that. And then here's a copy. I open it up. You can see since I didn't have it summarized, I've got my two remittance advices for this vendor. And it's got the standard information that we're going to send them so that I can email it or mail it to them. All right, so the next step is, now that you have your remittance done, you know what you're going to pay, you're going to go ahead and generate the actual file. So to do that, you would go to Actions, Functions, and generate your EFT. And this is going to show you everything in my batch that I had ready and that I had set up to pay with the ACH at that time by the batch. You can include and exclude here. Typically, you want to try to avoid that again. Once you've done your export on the remittance, you're just going to want to finish processing through, because changing and removing them at this point is difficult. So you would go ahead, and now next you're going to go ahead and generate. You can see it's got your bank. You click generate at the top, and then now you have your file. So looking at this, you can see it's got your bank numbers, it's got the bank name, the title, it's got all the information of the 3 documents that we're paying. And somehow these got out of order. So now you look, what we paid is gone. So it's all processed. Now you may feel like that you have completed the process and that everything is done, but you still need to post your batch. This has just created the file. So now you've got to remember to go back to your payment journal and do post and print. And this will post to the vendors and then your bank account. Or you can post, but preview posting, but you need to make sure to post. Okay, so now let's go over and I can show you in the system. All right, take a quick look at our vendor. Okay, so this is your standard, it's the vendor card. And then down here on your payment area, this is where I was saying you would put in your payment method code. ACH name makes it easy. You can name it something else, of course, but that is the naming we're using. It's going to point to your bank account and the bank account number. So we've got that set up. And then we have our preferred bank account for the vendor that we're going to pay with ACH. So if we go in and take a look at that, here so you can see. Yeah, I got out of it. There you go. Now you can see that I've set up the bank account. It does require that you have the code and the name, the branch, the bank account, and the transit number. And then this is the slide. It's real easy to forget as you're setting up to not activate that, and that will cause you errors down the road. So you can have multiple codes associated with each vendor if they have multiple bank accounts. So pretty simple. So now we'll go take a look at your bank account card. And again, your basic bank account information, the number, the account number, your branch. You've got to have your setup down here to say that this is where you can choose if you're using Canada or Mexico or US. Your export file name, and I'll show you how that links back. And then you've got your transit number and then your payment export. So if we go out and take a quick look at this to the bank import export setup, this is where you set up your different ACH or EFT setup. So we're saying that for this US default, that it's going to be an export type of a file. This is the code unit it uses, which is the generic base code. And then we have a data exchange set up for that. So we're going to go into that next, how to set up the data exchanges. When using these or modifying and changing both for these or the data exchanges, I always do recommend make a copy before you start modifications. That way you have something to go back to. Okay. So now let's take a quick look at processing one. We'll go to a payment journal. Journal. And this is where you have your batch name. So we set up ACH, we've got that. We've got your posting date. And it's showing that it's going to use the ACH numbering and our bank account checking account. So we're going to go in, we're going to prepare just vendor entries. So I can go ahead and use the last payment date. You can find discounts. Again, you can use all the filtering that you would when creating any batches. You can summarize by vendor or not. You can go through and, you put in your starting number. You've got your bank account that you're using for your ACH and that we set up, as you saw throughout in the checking. And then right now I have this one vendor and then a payment method code of ACH. This is going to limit it and not bring in those that we're going to pay by check. So we'll just say okay. Okay, so now you can see that it brought in for that vendor 2 lines. It's got the same number for the batch there, or the document. And the payment method code. We're going to go ahead and make that ACH. It didn't bring it in. You can set your journals to have defaults. It's got the bank account type, bank account, and then here's where it's brought in the invoice information. So again, you can change. I could delete this if I don't want to pay it. I can add something additional to the batch if I want still at this point. We're going to say bank payment type. It's electronic payment. It has to be one of these two. So we'll use bank electronic payment. And then the transaction type. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and let it process through. I'm going to do bank. And this is where, if you're going to review it, print it, review it, make your changes before you go forward. So now we're going to go ahead and bank export. This is going to create the remittance copies for me. I'm using the output method of PDF, and then I'm searching on this batch. So, okay. And if you watch carefully up here, you can see that it came out to the file. I can open it, review it, or I can open the folder and bring it over here. And then now I have my remittance advices that have been created. So each of these invoices have been paid, and you've got the advice to send to your vendor. Okay, so those have all been taken care of now. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to generate the EFT that actually goes to the bank. So actions, functions, generate EFT file. And you can see that the two documents again are here, account number, EFT, bank, all that. So again, that still hasn't created the file, but when we click generate EFT files, it exports the document up again in my downloads, you can see, and that this is now cleared out. So we can go out to the folder. We now have our EFT file that if we want to review it, we can go into Notepad. You're going to be wanting to do it this way, reviewing it while you're doing setup, because you're going to want to count the spaces, count the fields, count the columns, make sure everything's coming across as expected for the fields and the layout for the bank, as well as you're going to be looking at this and working with your bank to get it tested through and make sure that the file format matches what they need. So you'll probably be opening that way a lot in the beginning. And that's it. It's all cleared out. Feels like we're done, but we're not. We have to remember this batch. At this point, you cannot modify or make changes to the batch. The batch has to be posted. So you can go through, you can print for your records, do what you need, but you've got to post your batch. So go ahead and post. So they've been successfully posted. Okay. So that's how the process itself works. So now let's go back to the PowerPoint. And let's take a look at how you go about creating it. And you might recall when I started, I said different banks have different formats, different layouts, so you may need to modify what the standard is. So within the bank, as we showed, we went out and saw the US default, and you can select it. I showed the bank import, export, how you go through to that. And again, you have your data exchange definitions, the standards, US, Mexico, and Canada. And here are the code units that process with it. That's the base. So this may not work for you though. So you may need to go back out and create a new data exchange definition, one that fits your bank's needs. So you would start by going to your data exchange definition, and then you would create a code for it. You can start by using a US one, like I said, copy it, and then, rename it something else, make modifications to it, export it, export it so you have it to bring back in if the changes you make don't work. Always keep track of where you're at because they can be kind of time consuming. So you would go through, can use the base code units. We can go out then and see what additional fields and items you can add to your layout. And I'll show you that in the system in a minute. So when you go in, you can see this is when I go in to edit on the data exchange. You can see there's a detail line, footer lines, header lines, and how many columns are in each. Now this comes from the document your bank will provide you, so it'll tell you exactly what it needs. And we are highlighted on detail, so what you're seeing down below is the column definitions. They're telling me on these columns, column 12, there has to be a trace number. It's got to be 15 characters long, and it's got to be left justified. You go up here, you've got your 10's your account type, you've got your customer or vendor number, it's a set length, 15, and then, are you going to pad some of the numbers? Sometimes with the banks, you have to have a padding for preceding numbers, but their column lengths and order and how many fields is spelled out by the bank document that they give you. As well, the data type. Some fields are text, some are decimals, some are date, depending on what the bank's requirements. So we'll go in and take a look at that. So when you're on the line for the detail, now let's see if I can go backwards. Okay, so down here we defined all the columns on the bank's document, but this is saying what columns we're going to expect. Now we need to go in and map them so that we say, okay, for those columns, these are the fields we're expecting in those columns. So go into manage field mapping from the line, and then we start mapping each field. So for every column that you have on on the first screen of the data exchange, you're going to go ahead and add these columns here as well. You're going to put the caption on it. You know, it's just the name of what you named them up front. And then you're going to drill down and find the fields. So for the record type, there's a field out there in this code unit that's actually called record type. So you'd select it. Then you go down for transaction code and select it. So you'll follow everything the bank gives you. You'll have to have the columns that they request. You may not find the column. So when you're first starting out, you'll go through, you'll map, put all the columns here and map the ones you can find. And then when you start realizing maybe there's additional fields that they need, those are the things then we'd have to do modification or customization. But try to narrow down, get the fields that you can, and then we can help you on the rest as well. So let's go over to business system again. And we're going to go in a data exchange. Data exchange definitions. So again, here you can see I've got all these different copies. You can import, export. It's great, always export. I have a copy. Now I have it, can save it off so I know if I make any changes that really don't sit well, I have a place to go back. So we've got our title, we've got the base code units for processing them, and then we've got all the columns that are set up that are going to be in that notepad file that we opened up. If you counted these fields, you count one field, you know that's the record type, you would have seen a 6. Go on to the next 2 fields, you're going to know that that's the transaction code. So you spell it out by the field, and you can actually go through and read that file to know everything on it. So we're going to go take a look at the detail. You go manage, go to field mapping. And within here, this then now matches the columns up front. But if you go out here on record type, you can see if we drill down, these are all the fields that are in that table. So we're not using them all. And there are many others that maybe your bank requires that we don't have in the US based one. Like I said, every bank, unfortunately, there's not a standard requirement. Everybody has to use the same format. So you will find that even if you have 2 banks, the one for the one bank may not work for your second bank. So you would go through and just start mapping every field to match the document that your bank provided. You're going to mark whether it's optional. Some fields the bank will say are optional, others are going to be required. So you don't mark it if it's required, mark it if it's optional. You can do transformation rules. You can change everything to uppercase. You can get formats for dates. There's also a spot on the front that I can show you where you can put date formats. So you can do essentially a lot or everything that the bank needs by using the formats, the columns, the codes. And is it going to overwrite? It's going to go back. So for every line that you have, and then you have a footer, you can see if we go out and look down here now. Let me collapse that. So go down here, you can see now when I clicked on footer, I have different column definitions for the footer. I'm telling it different formats. I'm telling the culture for the data. Again, you have your field lengths. These fields are constant. Every time the record type, it's an 8 for this footer. So if we go back up here now and go look at the footer and go to manage field mapping, you can see then again, we've listed all our columns and we've mapped the fields to the other code and table. And again, so now you have more to choose from. So again, depending on what your bank requirements are, you can go through and do that. And then once you're all done, you're going to go back to your bank account card and your bank import export. Then you're going to make sure that it points to that you have your code pointing to the right data definition that you've just set up, and then your bank pointing to the import export. So that's how you set it up in ACH and Business Central. I'm going to go back over. Any questions on how to set it up or process?
Let me check here. No questions at this time. Very thorough. So no questions. Thank you
Oh,
so much, Anne-Marie, for showing everyone how to get started with ACH payments. We hope this was very helpful to you, and we look forward to seeing you in our wrap-up session at the top of the hour. We'll see you on the next one. Have a great rest of your day.
thank you. Thanks, everyone.